everybody. It's Dr. Cindy with the Positively Altered podcast. You've heard the phrase, put your best foot forward. But how about your feet? And where do you put them? And what do you do with them? And how does that relate to the bedroom and shoes? Well, the shoes is obvious. The bedroom might not be. So stay tuned because we have a return guest this week and we are going to dive into just those topics. So take a quick listen to our sponsors. You know they're super important to us and we will be right back.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? We are back. I am Dr. Cindy, your host of the Positively Altered podcast, with my return guest, and I cannot wait because nobody has any idea where this is going to go. Joshua Holland, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I am thoroughly excited to do this episode, especially because we hit it off so well in our first episode together, and I recall when I first met you, just all the things that we talked about and how much you kind of sparked some new ideas in my brain. And so I want to pass that on to the audience a bit.
Okay. So, the tease is there's this saying we always put our best foot forward. However, we have two of them. And a lot of people think of that in context of a couple things, right? Maybe their work ethic, their personal desires and goals. Maybe it's about shoes, but we're going to go somewhere completely unexpected today, aren't we?
We are. I think it'd be good to preface this conversation with the fact that because I do a lot of work for Vivo Barefoot, I'm kind of known as like a foot expert when it comes to, and I'm not a podiatrist, let's put that out there. However, I have worked with feet for a long time, and some people dub me as a foot fetish guy, and I don't think that's accurate. However, I do have a really big appreciation for the feet, and so I want to pass that on.
Okay, so it's not a fetish for me either, but I actually do love feet. I know a lot of people don't like feet. I like feet. I am barefoot as often as I possibly can. Actually, I'm barefoot right now. You know how like during COVID, people didn't wear pants on these calls?
Yeah.
Okay, so just in case anybody's curious, I am wearing pants.
I'm not.
You're not wearing pants. Okay. No show and tell today, Josh. No show and tell.
That's another show.
No, yeah. This is a no filter show. So I guess if you want to stand up, you are welcome to do so. No judgment. But I am barefoot, ready to have this conversation with my green toes. I have green nail polish on today, which we'll talk about later. But okay, so I'm not in the bedroom, but my feet carry me into the bedroom. Let's go here. So feet, what do feet and the bedroom have to do with each other?
Okay, so upon sort of researching and getting prepared for this conversation, I decided to maybe muck up my entire algorithm by doing a bunch of searches for like the prevalence of the foot industry, right? And it's one of the fastest growing industries, right? Like there's all these sites out there. I think one is called Footly. There's a few other ones where people are basically taking the idea of OnlyFans and making money from putting pictures of feet on the internet. And that made me think, okay, a lot of us, we look at feet as something taboo and people don't want to really show their feet. And then I started kind of thinking back, well, okay, why is it so prevalent then in the industry of making money from showing feet? And I think it kind of starts back to an early conversation. I think we all maybe have experienced at one point or another in our lives by playing footsies under the table, right? You play footsies with someone that's kind of another level of intimacy, right? And I kind of compare that to holding hands as well. And our hands and our feet are very similar in anatomy and the anatomy structures. And I compare the hands and feet a lot because we have so many mechanoreceptors in our hands and in our feet. And then the moment that you understand that, okay, making out with someone is a level of intimacy, holding hands with someone in public is like, oh, you've taken the step, right? But like, where does it go when we actually get comfortable enough to like take off our shoes and our socks and actually touch each other's feet? And then you can even go deeper by saying, you know, interacting with our own feet, right? Learning the different spots, right? Like there's foot reflexology, there's different things that you can activate parts of our body, but I kind of go above and beyond that because there's performance in the general sense, right? Like athletic performance, but then there's performance in the bedroom. And a lot of times, especially for men, I would say for women as well, but since I am a man, I can talk very well for men that a lot of times when guys have ED, erectile dysfunction, it's a lack of circulation. Mm-hmm. And circulation starts with our feet and primarily our calves, right? Our calves are known as our second heart. And so I started thinking like, well, what would happen if I started activating my feet more, activating my calves more? And then I have some tools around my apartment that like, I have this one really cool massage device. They call them massage guns, but it's a device called Rally, Rally, and it's known as an orbital massager. And, you know, if I have someone over and I want to maybe spice up a situation to see where the level of comfort and trust is amongst the two people, sometimes I'll just whip out that device and it's very phallic looking, right? Mm-hmm. I must say. But then I think it opens up another level of conversation as well, because if someone is going to resist a foot massage, right, then maybe that's another conversation. Okay, are we not comfortable enough with each other? Right. And then I know a lot of us have this idea of having a long day at work, walking around New York City, places like this, and then coming home and wanting to take off the feet. We kind of enter into this moment of relaxation, just completely relaxing. And I know for my female counterparts out there, relaxing into any situation is a big deal. So if you know, when it comes to talking about men and women in this heteronormative relationship, there is a big contrast, a big difference between men and women and how we can achieve pleasure and climax, right? And a lot of times with females, we have to get you out of your own heads. And sometimes just taking a little bit longer with the foreplay is a really good start. And I think it starts at the feet. So that's kind of my spiel.
Oh my gosh. So I'm thinking of all kinds of different things. First of all, I love having my feet touched, so much so that I will tell you, I have a massage therapist that's in my office. I will push her as far away as I possibly can from a massage standpoint because I need it so bad that I don't like it, right? It's uncomfortable. But I have actually, and I'm going to admit this, right? I have actually written checks and paid large sums of money over time to go into facilities where all they do is work on your feet.
Yeah.
I could lay there for 90 minutes and it doesn't matter what you look like, what you're built like, who you are. But if I close my eyes and your hands are in the right place on the bottom of my feet, that is the most perfect 90 minutes for me.
I love that. I'm someone, especially up until the pandemic, I would literally get a massage once a week and a lot of times twice a week. And I can always look back and remember the best massages were the ones that included my feet. And there was a period of time where I was dealing with plantar fasciitis and Achilles tendinopathy, in which I would say to the massage therapist, please do not go to the feet because it was painful. So that was something for me to work on. Now it's a like there is no option, right? Like you have to do the feet. And if a person's not really good at massaging my feet, then I maybe don't have as good of an experience. And so that's where we can sort of work on ourselves first. So we know what we like. And then we can also identify the parts of our feet that are maybe a little bit more sensitive. You can connect that to different organs and different pathologies throughout the body. But then we can also start to look at the footwear that we use, because this is very much paired with my work with Vivo Barefoot. And we can talk about opening up the feet, doing different foot exercises. In fact, one of the things that I teach when I do workshops is a thing we call foot mojo or toe mojo. And all that is simply is just reconnecting with your own feet. And a lot of times it starts by just putting your fingers in between your toes. So I'm sure many of you have noticed the prevalence of toe spacers. Well, you can go and get toe spacers and do that passively, or you can even do that actively, right? Doing different foot mobility drills. But I think we should start by leveraging our own body. We have tools on our own bodies that we can use. And just by shoving your fingers in between your toes is a really good start. And then you kind of go, this is like holding my own hand. And we can really lean into this self-development, self-love, like self-appreciation. And I always call this out as kind of a funny moment, but when I'm doing these workshops, at the very beginning of a workshop, I kind of find it funny that there's always a handful of people that are very resistant. Everyone's happy to take off their shoes, but there's always a small percentage of people that are unwilling to take off their socks. And then I go, okay, you've signed up. You either paid for this workshop or you signed up for this workshop. Time is money, right? So you've spent the time to come here and you don't really think that you're going to be taking off your shoes and your socks. Like, come on, let's start by getting comfortable with your own body. And then let's see where that goes in terms of confidence. Everyone walks out of there 1 foot forward, right? Everyone walks out of there much happier with their situation because now they have something they can work on that a lot of people neglect. That's the feet.
Okay. So is there any truth? You see these pictures all the time on the internet, right? Of the perfect foot and your second toe is the same length as your big toe and your second toe is longer. And right, there's all these abnormal looking feet. And I think that's part of the discomfort for some people. Is there any truth to anything health related or functionally related when your toes are a certain length?
Okay, this is a really good question. So there's, I guess the old school methodology or thought behind this is that if your second toe is longer than your first toe, then you have something known as Morton's neuroma. Now, that's not always the case. So that's why I say this is old kind of thought. But if you do have if your second toe is longer than your first toe, then usually you have a higher risk of developing Morton's neuroma, which is essentially the bundling of nerves at the second metatarsal head, which is your second toe joint, big toe, or the toe joint. And usually that means you've created a rocker on that toe joint as opposed to the rocker of the big toe or the great toe. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you have that. It just means that you might be more likely to develop Morton's neuroma. And one of the ways to get out of that, if you do have that, if people don't understand what that is, it just feels like, because I had it for a little while, but my second toe is not longer than my first toe, right? So what it feels like is like you're stepping on a rock or a pebble, and it can be kind of painful. And I first recognized it when I went from wearing conventional shoes most of my life to then going into a barefoot shoe, where I was sort of developing this rocker on that second toe. And once I started to allow my toes to splay, if you're someone that has Morton's neuroma, and I were to put you on a pressure plate or plantar pressure plate, you can usually see it highlighted with this. It's really red and yellow. And that means there's peak pressure on that spot. And I've done this so many times at different conferences. And I ask that person, I say, do you have a bit of sensitivity or pain there? They say, oh, absolutely. I say, okay, well, why don't you try your best to spread your toes? Now, it's usually harder for them to do that, but when they can eventually spread their toes on this pressure plate, in the snap of a finger, you see the peak pressure go away. So then I go, okay, this is just to prove that if you spread your toes and you're able to work your feet, then you're going to do a lot better, and it's going to feel better, and you won't have to deal with that any longer. That's it. You don't have to cut down the toe.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm an ex-dancer, and my second toe, I double checked it too, just to make sure it hasn't changed as we were talking. But my second toe is about the same length as my big toe, which was actually outstanding in ballet for point shoes, right? Because we stand on our toes, which I'm not so sure is a smart thing to do. So I want to talk a little bit about like that, right? So those of us that shove our feet into shoes that are too small or the wrong shape, I spent years in high heels because I looked good in them. And now that I'm older, I don't care. So, the heels have gone away and the short, chunky things are coming out if necessary. I spend a lot of time in cowboy boots, and I develop, calluses on the little toe because they're all pointy. Like, how bad are we screwing ourselves up by all of these fashion choices or professional choices with what we do?
Well, it really comes down to why were shoes created in the first place. This is where I feel like I'm doing a workshop right now, right? Okay. But it's if we consider why shoes were created in the first place, which is a question I usually ask at every workshop, I let people ponder the idea of that question for a moment. And the usual response comes back is shoes were created for protection against the elements. So what are those elements? It's things like heat, right? So in the summertime in the desert, you want to protect your feet from heat or from extreme cold or sharp objects, things that can puncture your foot. Obviously, we want to protect our feet from that, even in today's world. Mm-hmm. And then somehow we went from the hide of skin, maybe wrapped in twill or some kind of vine or something, to now what we see today, which is these a lot of thick cushioning and very narrow toe boxes. Well, that's not the natural shape of our feet. And so what I always try to get people to understand is that if you want to protect yourself against the elements, then do that. And then maybe think about what is preventing your foot to be a foot. So you want to get a shoe that is foot shaped. What does that mean? That means it's widest at the toes, narrow at the heel. And we want something that is thin, because we have all those mechanoreceptors in the bottom of the foot for a reason. That reason is for sensory input, so that our body can then, first of all, know where we are in space, which is our proprioceptive system. It really comes from our feet. And then obviously you input all the other pieces like the vestibular system, the visual system, the mechanoreceptive system. All of that is important. So every amount of layer that we add to the bottom of our foot, the slower the synaptic firing is to the brain and back. And so then I usually ask this question of, can you ever identify a point in time in which you or someone you know has severely hurt themselves by rolling their ankle when they were barefoot? And the answer is usually no. I mean, there might be one or two people out there that are like, oh, it happened to me. And then I usually ask the question, okay, was the floor slippery? Was there something you stepped on? There was another barrier. But the reason why this is the case is because when you're barefoot or close to barefoot, you have enough time for the signal to get to the brain and back, and then your body to make an adjustment. And then when you consider the height of shoes, especially with thick cushioning, that makes for a very steep drop. So it's like falling off the cliff. So then when you do roll the ankle, if the ankle doesn't break or something bad doesn't happen to the ankle, then it usually travels up the system. Like, let's say you have an ankle brace on. Well, the sharp angle in which the foot drops over eventually is going to happen into the system. It's either going to affect the knee or eventually affect the hip and then the back. And so what we try to do is say to people, look at 3 criteria: wide or foot shaped, thin, and flexible.
Okay.
Right.
So it's interesting because I'm thinking about my oldest son, my poor kids on this podcast, right? Like I'm always like coming back to stories about my children where I rat them out. But I think about my oldest son, who's now, 21 years old, wrestler, right? Super athletic, like amazing on his feet. Obviously the shoes that they wear for wrestling are very, very thin, right? So not barefoot, but very, very thin. And yet this is a kid that doesn't get hurt lower extremity when he's wrestling. And Ari, please forgive me for this because I'm going to tell the story, but like, I can't tell you how many times he will like literally trip down a flight of stairs in his shoes and roll his ankle.
Yeah.
Like it's the dumbest thing, right? High-end athlete, totally conditioned, strong, and doesn't function as well in shoes. And now that's starting to make a little bit of sense where really he's not getting the right input, right? So where his brain is so trained from those mechanoreceptors barefoot or in a very thin shoe, those thick, Nike shoes that, by the way, I hope nobody's listening from Nike. Not a fan, right? Because we think about how these companies say we build a great shoe, but they don't say we build a great shoe for a foot.
Well,
right?
This is a good point, and sorry if I'm cutting you off, but I do want to address this because it's interesting that Nike actually had a barefoot shoe campaign, one of the best ones I've ever seen.
Okay.
They leaned into it and then they went away from it. And I think the reason is because if they really promoted a proper shoe for a foot, then it would cannibalize the rest of the company. Right. Okay. And so I think it was interesting because like I'm sure we can find it online somewhere, but the ad starts out with some African runners running in Africa in the desert. And you see that there's this shoe, but then it's like, at what point do you go, oh, like, let's go into the Nikes? Because I had those. I remember this was right around the time when I was first understanding the power of the feet. Right. But it is what it is, right? They're going to continue doing what they do. Now there's more companies that are starting to, like Adidas, I think now is leaning into the barefoot shoe game. Let's see where they go with it. But I wanted to kind of track back a little bit on what you were talking about with wrestling, because if you think of the most complex sports out there, wrestling is one, gymnastics is another one, dancing, like ballet dancing, things like this. Martial arts, right? Like if you watch a UFC fight, which is probably the most complex of sports out there, most of them are done barefoot or very close to it. Yes. Right. Yes. And I also think back to something that most people don't really consider, but some of the best balanced athletes in the world are the tightrope walkers. And you will never, ever see a tightrope walker wearing a conventional shoe. Ever. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because you need to be able to feel your environment, the ground upon which you walk is maybe an inch thick, right? And then you've got the slackline athletes, right? Same thing. You won't see them in a conventional shoe. It won't happen. So that should tell people, oh, okay, so there is some importance in having your foot actually feel what's happening.
Yeah, I see that now with Ari because he loves to rock climb and he's doing, all the 14s in Colorado. And again, the shoes, I don't know how he shoves his foot into that shoe, quite frankly. Yeah. But that's the whole idea, right? Is the ability to be able to grab with the toes, to be able to feel every little nook and cranny. So, he doesn't plunge to his death as he's climbing the side of a mountain.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I think we lose sight of the importance of that in just our day to day because the cowboy boots are really cool and the high heels are pretty. And the Air Max shoes with the big gel inserts because they're cushiony, right?
Yeah.
But yet for the health of us, Not good. So, okay. Slack line. Should we all get, I'm thinking I don't have a slack line. I've actually looked at it a couple times because I love to walk. And it's funny when I do my meetings and I'm on a treadmill, I actually walk on it barefoot. I take off my shoes and I walk my treadmill barefoot. And I've actually been contemplating getting a slack line, but I figure I'm going to be in the middle of a Zoom meeting and then, like you're going to see me. Well, I don't fall off the treadmill. So, I'm going to fall off the slack line. But would a slack line be a good recommendation for people as a starting point to really reinitiate, the proprioception that we're not getting in shoes?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good starting point, but it is a good thing to add into eventually. I think a good starting point would be literally balancing on one foot on the floor, right?
Okay.
Figuring out, because if a person listening to this right now, if you take just literally standing on the floor on a single leg and try your best to do that for 3 minutes, just standing on one foot for 3 minutes, eventually you'll start to feel things, right? And then you can eventually start to maybe get on a rolled up towel. And that's a really good, I think we all have towels that we can roll up, right? And so, get a rolled up towel. And then there's a product called a slack block. And it's developed by a company that they make slack lines, but they made a portable slack line you can put in your home. And they have one of their big ones, which is like this U-shaped frame that has a slack line that goes across it so that you can do it at home. You don't have to have it like in a park around a bunch of trees and whatnot. And then I think you can also set the height level, right? Because if it's very high, then that's going to throw you off for sure. Okay. So I would say maybe start with the floor, then get a rolled up towel, then maybe look into a product like a slack block, or get a product that I love to use a lot, which is, by the way, the slack block is a wooden, it feels like it has sandpaper on top of it. And it's like a wooden plank that has a foam underneath. And that foam is kind of wobbly or unstable. And trying to just stand on that with one foot for 3 minutes is like very hard. It's very hard. And then there's different positions you can change it. You can just balance, like you can intersect it, right, by turning it horizontally and you stand on your forefoot. Almost impossible to do. But then there's another product which is called the Soulmate, SOLE, Soulmate, and that is a domed cork. It's cut in half so that you can make it flat on one end, and then there's a dome on the top.
Similar to like a Bosu ball.
Similar to a Bosu ball, but it looks like a foam roller, a typical foam roller that is split down the middle, and therefore it opens up into two pieces. Okay. And then the flat part can be put down on the ground, and then you can stand on top of the domed or the curved upper. And what that does is helps to spread out the forefoot, especially if you stand on it parallel. And that's a really good tool to use for those who might be dealing with Morton's neuroma, or those who really need to open up their forefoot. Okay. And then you can also, there's a little small foam roller on the inside of that, right? So when you open up the Soulmate, there's a little divot, and inside that has another little roller. And you can find all this online at thefootcollective.com, which is a great company that I have done their certification program. They have a lot of really cool things. In fact, they're the ones that came up with the Foot Mojo or the Toe Mojo. And so I think if people really want resources and where to go to kind of learn how to open up their feet, I can send a link and direct people to that. And I feel like that's a really good starting point. Then you might be ready for the slack line.
Okay. So I won't purchase it yet. I'll do the interim. All right. We have to go back because, sex is one of my favorite subjects. And I don't know how we got so far away from that, because that should have been the focus, although this was great information. So I want to go back to the foot and even the calf and circulation and intimacy and all of that. It's funny. I'm going to throw somebody else. You ready? Again, I'm going to throw somebody else in my life under the bus. My boyfriend all the time, cold feet, like super, super Cold feet. And part of the problem is he likes his house warm and I like his house cold. And he usually gives in a little bit more to me because he's just that kind of guy. But like super cold feet. And then he'll put them like on my calves, which actually doesn't really bother me because I like things cold. But let's talk about for people who have that type of experience, right? With the feet are cold. Give me an activity, right? Rather than going, stop touching me with your cold feet, which I don't think is really good for intimacy. How can we use that type of dichotomy in body temperature to improve intimacy in the bedroom?
This is wonderful. I'm glad we touched on this because let's think about what you just mentioned in the literal and figurative term, cold feet, right?
Okay.
So we all know the figurative term, cold feet, is someone who's maybe not so sure about what it is they're going to do or what they want to do or whatever. And we don't want that when it comes to bedroom talk, right?
Yeah, he's good with that. Just
okay.
So
well, good. I just think that is another bit of awareness, right? Sensory awareness. Right. And so I also look at that from the literal standpoint. Someone that has cold feet has possibly a lack of circulation, especially at the feet. Now, you can say throughout the body, sure, but especially during the feet. So that's another example of someone that might get more bang out of their buck by learning how to work their feet, right? Get in touch with your own feet, warm them up. Like sometimes if I have cold feet inside my apartment, I have all these tools. I like to use red light. I have a device that is a red light device that also uses electrical muscle stimulation. So I just put my feet, I'm watching TV. I put my feet on this tool and it has red light, which is warming. It's a warming sensation. So not only does it help with the body temperature, but it also helps with the circulation. And then you've got the electrical muscle stimulation that is now activating parts of your feet. And so this is creating a signal to the body to add in more circulation, more blood flow. The blood flow then can go to other parts of your body that we want it to go, right? And so not to say that he or anyone else in this situation has a problem in that area, but it might be improved.
Okay.
Right. And so just think about, like, if you're already satisfied and you're happy, then maybe you'd be even happier. Maybe he'll be even happier.
Okay.
Right? So, yeah.
No, that's fair.
So that's just one example. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I know there's all kinds of points on the bottom of the foot, right? Reflexology that we can hit that coordinate with different, let's say symptoms or organs. If we were going to just play with our partner and, we're new to this, right? We've looked at feet. We've never actually thought about feet. Are there certain points on the bottom of the feet or the top of the feet that you just love that are worth trying to stimulate just to see what kind of response we get?
Okay. Yes, there's a lot. And this is well above my pay grade when it comes to trying to pretend like I'm a foot reflexologist. So if a person wants to really dive deep into that, there's endless amounts of information online about it. However, my strategy when it comes to sort of taking this down the lane of maybe intimacy is I first and foremost, you need to ask for permission, right? And then we need to make sure that the person is comfortable, because once they're comfortable, then everything else just becomes a lot easier, right? And so I was listening to this really funny reel yesterday. A friend sent it to me, and it was talking about using intimacy or climax with men and women as ways, right? Like the GPS app, Waze. Okay, yeah. And so there's all these direction changes that females go through. It's not always the same, right? So each person is very, very different. So first and foremost, you want to make sure that they're okay with it. And then if they're not, then maybe you find another way to get there. But most people are okay with a massage because it's a certain level of intimacy, right? Connection. Then to make sure that the person is not ticklish, because that ends up being a problem, I think, with most people not wanting to have their feet touched is because of being ticklish. And one of the ways around that is, I think, starting a little bit higher than the feet and then applying firm pressure first. So firm pressure is a really good way. And there's this phenomenon known as piezoelectric effect within our body, right? This electrical connection that we have in our hands. That's why massage is so important, because we can transfer this energy. And so maybe you just use the whole palm of your hand around the bottom of the foot, the entire bottom of the foot. Then maybe go into the arch, which might be a little bit sensitive. And then maybe start to work your way around the heel, then work your way up into the toes. And as long as you have a certain amount of pressure and you see that everything is okay, then you can start to get into this stroking sensation. And that starts to turn on the brain for the person that you're stroking, because it's very similar to stroking of other areas of the body, right? And so once you get to the point where they're super comfortable and they're relaxed into it, they're not tensed up, because you can feel the tension, right? If you really are aware of yourself and aware of the person that you're treating, so to speak, then you can feel tension. And wherever there's tension in the foot, if you can get that to release, then chances are you get other parts to release. And I will say this, not TMI, but maybe, there was a situation in which I was doing this touch with a female, and let's just say that she was very happy to the point that she started shaking. Yeah. So it is possible, and I will say it is rare, but it is possible. And so once you find the right connection and everything is okay on both parties, then I feel like that is a good start for everyone. And then next thing you know, you're going to get that partner probably asking you to do this more often.
Yeah,
So
I absolutely love that. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to be right back. And in the meantime, while you listen to the sponsors, shoes off, socks off, fingers between your toes. Let's get started. And then I think you should stop there just for the sake of listening to the rest of the podcast. And we can continue later on in the evening. But we're going to take a quick break. Josh, you ready? We're going to come back. I have some really just related rapid fire questions this time that we're going to hit. So don't miss this, because you're also going to find out if either of us have ever sold our feet pics. We will be right back. The Positively Altered Podcast. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered Podcast. Stop. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. Thank you for coming back. I hope that your fingers and your toes are warm because you interlaced them during the commercial break. And if you haven't, there's plenty of opportunity for the rest of the day. Josh, we're going to do a couple fun rapid fire questions that have everything to do with feet. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is your favorite bone in the foot?
The heel.
So the calcaneus. I'm going to pull the medical term.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
the calcaneus is your favorite. Is that also the most important bone in the foot?
I think it's debatable, but I would say yes. I think because it's what allows us. There's the calcaneus, or the heel, is our main rocker. Okay. It's the point in which our foot changes shapes. It's the main point, especially in the walking gait, in which we make first contact with the ground in terms of walking, right? And then based on the heel, there's a lot of downstream effects that make the foot make certain changes as well. So I think if we have, also it's the strongest. So in martial arts, we use the heel a lot to kick people. Not that that's a fun thing to do, but if you want to do a side kick, you want to use the heel. And I think it's the most powerful part of the foot. Okay. So I have to ask you more of the technical question than the rapid fire question, because I do think it's really important. I want to point it out to people. Toe walkers. There are people that actually do not heel strike. How detrimental is that to gait? I think that puts a lot of undue pressure on the Achilles and the calves. And so, yeah, I would maybe first wonder why, like if there's any other neurological issues that are happening.
Mhm.
And sometimes when it comes to feet and our gait, sometimes it's a software change. So there's a difference between a hardware change and a software change. The hardware change or the hardware issue is something that is like a physical issue within the structure of our feet or our body. But the software issue is just asking someone not to do that first, right? Or to make your feet straight. Don't walk with your feet turned out. And people will look at you and go, but I've been doing this my whole life. And I say, well, then don't do that.
Right.
That's the software change, right?
Right.
So if a person is a toe walker, maybe we get them not to do that because maybe they were told or they thought when they went to a running workshop or something and they were told to be a 4-foot striker when it comes to loading the foot when running. Yes, you want to load the 4-foot, or you want to have a midfoot strike first and foremost, which is the full foot. And some people think that that's what you're supposed to do when you move at all times, but it's not true. Walking, you're supposed to heel strike first, roll to the outer edge of the foot, into the 4-foot, and then push off.
Yes. All right. Nail polish, toenail polish, or no polish?
I don't wear toenail polish, but that's just because I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think toenail polish is nice if someone wants to color up their life, and I think adding a bit of color is always kind of fun, right? But one of the things I think is beneficial from having toenail polish is usually what precedes getting toenail polish, which is care for your feet.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. So I'm going to go get a pedicure. What color are you picking for me, Josh?
Green.
No. I'm wearing my bright green today. See?
Yeah, I knew you had green on, but I was also keying into your background, the background behind you, and I also think green is a fun color. Sometimes it's not one that we would expect, except during St. Patrick's Day, right? But I think it's a fun color. I'm a fan of red.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay.
Not to say that I would ever have red toenail polish, but I'm not against it.
Anklet or ankle weights?
What was the first one? Anklet?
Anklets or ankle weights?
What is an anklet?
A bracelet around the ankle.
Or ankle weights? I would say anklet. Because the first thing that comes to mind is there's a company called Magnet RX. And they make really cool anklets. I mean, they make a lot of different types of jewelry and other products around magnetism. So right, literal and figurative, but they use a technology called biomagnetism, which is really helpful for helping the circulation throughout the body. And this necklace that I have on here is a magnetic necklace, right? So it uses hematite. And that's what these little balls or beads are. And they also make anklets. And so I would prefer that because having ankle weights is not something that I think we can do all the time. And I think that it changes the lever. So the lever of the leg, that is, you can use it for exercise. And I think it is good to a certain extent, but I want people to use their own bodies first and then look for extra tools to then help the body. So I think of the two, they're both helpful in some way, but I would probably go with the anklet.
Okay, sounds great. Have you ever sold feet pics, Josh?
I have not yet.
Would you?
Keyword yet. No, it's first of all, I don't think anybody's buying my feet pics. And, maybe I'm wrong, but I do have my feet all over social media because I'm the foot guy, right? So I think if people are into my feet, they're probably getting a lot of free goodies out of it. But I don't know. I almost had to get double bunion surgery many years ago. And that's part of my story in terms of the understanding of the feet. And so I can talk very well and relate very much to someone who has foot problems. I also dealt with plantar fasciitis. I didn't know what it was until I figured out what it was. I also have Achilles tendinopathy from time to time. So I have to work on my feet a lot. And I've just now, in the last couple of years, I've just now gotten to the point where I actually appreciate the look of my feet because of what they've gone through.
Yes.
Not because I think they look great, because they don't, right?
Okay.
But I do have a fond appreciation of my feet.
I love that. So I will tell you, it's interesting. In college, when my daughter was in college, she had a roommate that used to sell her feet pics, and I didn't even believe that it was such a thing. And then I thought, how dumb that I have not done it, but how dumb that I haven't done it. Like, what a cool, easy way to make money, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just put this out in public. If there is anybody who would like to see a picture of my feet, if you're willing to make a sizable donation to the Positively Altered project, in which we donate money back to the community, I would be happy to contemplate sending you a feet pic, but for no other reason other than a good donation. So
yes, you're about to blow up now, right? Because I think those who are into feet are probably like, I want to see those green toenails. Let's see them.
And for a donation on top of the donation, I'll let you pick the color that, the next pedicure gives me. How's that? So, you can have pink or purple. The only color that's off limit is blue. I don't do blue toes. It's not my favorite. Any other color is fair game. And, we can go through my executive assistant, Julie, for, the fees and the disclosure statements and contracts and the fact that we will not give you my address, so you cannot stalk me if you happen to fall in love with me. So there will be very specific rules according to the donation and the exchange of the picture. Anyway, let's do this. Is there one last thing you would love to leave our audience with to think about, do, explore when it comes to feet, sexuality, or anything we've covered today?
Well, I would love to make sure that people understand that when I talk about feet and I talk about the implications of conventional shoes or modern shoes versus natural or barefoot shoes, I don't want people thinking that it's all or nothing.
Okay.
I want people to understand that if you are going to lean into the fashion of shoes, because I get it, like, I like a good Jordan as well. And I'm a basketball player and, I love the fashion of shoes, but I also know that if we consider modern shoes or conventional shoes as casts, like a foot cast, you have to first understand that a cast was put in place to immobilize certain parts of the body for a period of time. And usually that's so that the bone can set in place and then the bone can start to heal. And then you take that off, you notice that there's a lot of atrophy of muscle and there's bone density loss. So then what people typically do right away is they start to do rehab. Well, if you compare conventional shoes to a foot cast, then at what point are we taking off the cast and doing the rehab? So if you're someone that's going to shove your foot into a conventional shoe for a long period of time, that's quite all right, because I get it, right? But don't just assume that your foot is going to be okay because you took it out and did nothing with it, right? You got to take it out and reconnect with your feet. So that's one big key thing that I try to leave every workshop saying, because I don't want people thinking like, this guy is crazy, I'm never going to wear an ugly looking barefoot shoe. No, I'm not saying that. Just reconnect with your feet, do foot exercises, go online, look up toga or toe yoga and get to work. That's it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And it's great advice, because sometimes we just move through life and forget about the consequences from some of our choices. Yeah. Josh, how do people find you, follow you, work with you, hire you for a workshop, see your feet? Give us all the information.
So I'm fortunate enough to have all of my social media, even my website at Joshua J. Holland. So Joshua, and then my middle initial J, and then my last name Holland, like the country. And you can find me pretty much anywhere under Joshua J. Holland. And absolutely. Like if people want to hear me go more in depth on this topic, or they want to hire me for a workshop or whatever, hit me up, because I love it. Obviously, I'm very passionate about all this, but then there's also many other things I like to talk about, but a lot of times it starts with the feet.
I love that. One day, Josh, we're going to share a stage that's going to be feet and sex, or sex and feet, or something like that.
Yeah, let's do it.
I see it in our future. For those of you that would like to learn more about what's going on in our world, please check us out at drscindyspeaks.com and sign up for the newsletter. We don't bombard you every single day, but we love to share good information. Please also pick up the book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. Josh, it has been an absolute pleasure. When you get passionate about elbows or ears or any other body part, you let me know. We will absolutely have you back because you and I are not done doing good work together. I do hope that all of the information today has left all of you listening positively altered.